Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Houston gives the Red Raiders their best shot, but Tech returns the favor with superior firepower as JT Toppin reminds the world he's still the captain now.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Now the number one sports podcast network in the world. Thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet only $5 and you're getting $200 in bonus bets if you win. Get started today at FanDuel.com. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you and warming ourselves in a frigid West Texas by the lighted fire of a hell of a win. It's Texas Tech over Houston on Saturday from United Supermarkets Arena. I'm still tingling. What a crowd. What a day. What a result. As you saw, two of the nation's best, forget the Big 12, two of the nation's best going toe-to-toe and pretty much look like you would expect in that kind of situation, Chris. So we'll get to a couple of things as it relates to that game. And what's upcoming now this week? I dreamt a little bit about it on Friday, what you could set ahead for yourself with a few days to regather before you head to Orlando, and would love to be doing that on the heels of a win. So now here you are. We'll get to supporting cast contributions and a new name in the mix. We'll get to star power being star power. And we'll get the toughness, which at the end of the day is what won the day, right? Incredible.
Yeah, I mentioned to you before we started that I woke up Saturday morning and I had three wishes. Like get to the arena safe, get a win, get back home safe. The trifecta. But you also hit the other trifecta because you won, you covered, and you came out healthy. It's hard to ask for much more than that. The crowd was just unbelievable. I didn't know what this was going to look like. The weather was different for a lot of folks, but I saw out of town folks. There was a saddle tramp that consumes this show. That there was going band or pep band members that shouting out for me as student section folks that watch this doozy of a little show that we try to do, and everybody was excited and they clocked in early because I think there was folks lining up at like 4 or 5 yesterday morning to try to get in, which I don't even want to. I'm not tough enough for that because it was very cold outside. But the environment set the stage for what was just an unbelievable basketball game with some big time coaching, big time talent, and we touched on this in the build up to this game. But you've had a hell of a week, and you needed to have a hell of a week because these were games because you had them at home. You really needed to hold serve if you wanted to. Because you feel like you're kind of at the top of the deal here. You've split with Houston and you've beaten BYU, but yet there's still an Arizona team that doesn't come to Lubbock that is sitting there undefeated. So it's just the margin for error if you're trying to contend for the Big 12 championship is razor thin. But you did what you were supposed to do, and boy, does the midweek bye come at a great time. But it was just star power, auxiliary power. You had and some of the subtle coaching moves, decisions to try to get to the end and get a win were fascinating to me in this matchup because we just seen this matchup 3 weeks ago, and there was a few tweaks because they scored over 170 points. Vegas thinks it's 140. I thought we were going to see a game in the 60s or 70s. Rock fight my ass. It was bombs away again, and it was just like, okay, can somebody find some defense? And this was a game involving Houston and a very improved Texas Tech team on defense.
I'm seeing 55 on the scoreboard at the halftime break, trying to remind myself who we're playing because I thought it was Houston out there. I'm worried we're going to burn through all our bulbs for the scoreboard, which is a reference from the 1980s because I don't think they use bulbs anymore, but you get the idea. It was just amazing to see the shot making from both sides, Chris. And I want to get into this with you further on an episode upcoming this week because, as we accurately assessed a few weeks ago, we've got a National Player of the Year candidate conversation to be having with JT Toppin. Before we get to some of the subtleties from game 1 to game 2, how about something that anybody with eyes, or maybe just ears even, could you read Braille basketball? You notice this. JT Toppin. I'm sorry to Kingston, the rudest of rude boys. Fleming was extra rude, 40 plus on Saturday. Yikes. I'm sorry to Christian Anderson even. This is JT Toppin's league. It's nobody's time but JT Toppin's time. And that shot making was really incredible, Chris, from long range and off the dribble for some of those guys I just mentioned. But what's really nice as well is when you see a man sun several Cougars straight to the rim and just force his way there for 2, and maybe a little harm with it as well, which is what JT was doing. So I like all the flashy stuff and some of the Steph Curry aspect of what we were seeing otherwise. But you know what works as well? Attacking the rim. And JT was doing that. One of the biggest shots of the game, I thought about 2.5 minutes left or so, was exactly that. And it's like, wow, look at all these shots. And then, oh, boom, here's the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year just going to the hoop. And that works plenty fine as well, right?
JT has achieved the most difficult thing that there is to do in sports, regardless of what level you're playing at: consistency. You see flashes from players, you see greatness from players, but it's the ones that are truly great do it all the time and make it look easy, even though it's not. And he's just relentless. And listening to Kelvin Sampson talk about JT after both of these games versus Houston should tell you want to know all you need to know, because he's got the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year on his team. And he was asked after this one on Saturday, "Hey, who was at the top of your scout?" And he's kind of like, "JT Toppin. We did a really good job, didn't we?" Sarcasm. That's it. But it was his work. It was his work on the glass. Look, JT took 5 threes, kind of got baited into him, kind of, I don't know, settled. None of those went in. But it was his ability to draw fouls and his work and energy on the glass that was the difference here. He gets to the free throw line and knocks down. This is a 46% free throw shooter coming into the game. He knocked down 7 of 8 at the stripe. That was also a bit of a storyline in this game, in that we've talked about this. You're so reliant on the 3-point shot. Can you pound people in the paint? Can you get to the free throw line and initiate offense that way? And yes, you can, against arguably one of the best defenses in the country. And you went 24-30, but JT had a lot to do with that. Christian Anderson also had a lot to do with that. But yeah, JT was he was absolutely relentless, and his ability to pass, just so well rounded. I mean, so I'm going to live with a couple of perimeter shots not going in, but he just an ability to just score in traffic and just because you're not going to see. I don't care what anybody says in some other podcast in some other league. You're just not going to see a more physical bunch than what Houston trots out there. You're just not. That they are. It's like they grow them in a factory, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's and they foul. I think Grant even said this. He told the officials, because I'm sure a lot of people have takeaways about the way the game was officiated. I've heard Houston fans complaining about it, which is rich, because of the way games are officiated at the Fertitta Center and all that stuff. But Grant acknowledged, and it's the truth. Houston against another high level opponent like this, it's a very difficult game to officiate, because if you call stuff, you could theoretically call it every time. So you either call all of it or call nothing, which neither is the reality, but they find a balance. But playing through contact, getting bumped, sometimes you're going to get a whistle, sometimes you're not. But JT is kind of mastered that, doesn't get knocked off of his spot. They double teamed him repeatedly from different angles, and it's just a really good player, man. It's a really good player. And no doubt, I don't disagree that it is, in fact, his league, for sure. I don't know if he can win it, whether it be the award or the league with his team, because there's a lot of meat left on the bone there. But yeah, very impressed. 31-12, man, and it's kind of ho hum at this point.
Yeah. Do you want to just have a quiet 31-12? Nothing quiet about that. Again, just some electrifying moments, both ends of the floor on the glass. He was actually talking on game day prior to the ball game about his passing, his ball handling, maybe being things that stood out to him as far as what he had improved this year. And I thought we immediately to follow saw some of that on display as well. So just an incredible, incredible game. The Christian Anderson angle, Chris, they made it incredibly difficult on him once again. Did not have a great shooting day. He did get into the double digits from a scoring perspective, and I was really impressed with his toughness, his perseverance, and resiliency, just the tenacity to continue to do what he needs to do for his team, get to the free throw line, knock those shots down. He has 9 assists on the day. We're going to get to some of the supporting cast, whether it's an Atwell, a Petty, a Mosley we can now discuss also, Watts and company in just a moment. But we're always talking about this duo. And going into the game, we talked a lot about Anderson because we wanted to see the response from game 1 to game 2. And I don't think it got any easier for him. He scratched out a little bit more, but man, they just find ways to make it really, really difficult for Christian Anderson with some added pressure, et cetera. What were you seeing from C4 as you were there courtside? First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and football is in full force, and FanDuel's keeping you stocked with action every game day with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered. Quick, easy, and secure every time. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. What were you seeing from C4 as you were there courtside?
And keep in mind, the two players that we're talking about never came off the floor. This is just unheard of. It's just this unheard of. They don't get a rest. They can't afford to take possessions off. It's just I just don't know if people grasp like the mental toughness that it comes, going against that kind of opponent and that kind of atmosphere, and being really or having to be really, really good on both ends of the floor. I mean, it's just the physical, the beating, the bumps, all of it, and then trying to remember what you're supposed to be doing, and they just do it both so well. So Christian still found a way to beat Houston with the pass, and I think Grant said this well. You look up and it's a 12-9 game, but he's so good on defense. But what Grant pointed out, which I think is very smart, and it's right, judge Christian on if we won or not. That's really it's like the quarterback. I mean, it's like if you win, that player had a lot and sometimes the most to do with it because they have the ball in their hands the most. And I just thought he did score enough. He also got to the free throw line and decided to drive it a lot when they took away the 3-point shot. So he has a big. He was also 7 of 8 from the stripe, and his ability to get downhill. But just some of the. I mean, he dropped one off on a no look in traffic when he kind of was driving in. And he kind of looked to the corner like he's about to spray it, and then it was like a skip pass right to JT Toppin for a dunk. I mean, this is just like the highest of level point guard play, man.
King of beauty. Artwork. Picasso.
Yes. I
mean, Pee Wee, Maravich, use the name you want.
Yeah, that's right. He's just such a pleasure, but he and JT deserve to win this game. They've put in the most in this program, and they've got some really nice pieces around them that are starting to play off of it and elevate their game. Because if I tell you that Lawan Watts scores 3 points and only has 5 rebounds before the game, you're probably thinking, probably didn't go well. And yet you scored 90. But let's get to Watts, because this was one of the changes that I noticed. Yeah. There's 2 things that happen in this game. It's wildly fascinating to me. Tactical changes or playing the numbers. So we'll get to the Kingston Flemings night, which was intentional. So I'll get to that in a second. And you're like, intentional? He scored 42. Yeah, it was on purpose. in a weird way. So I'll get to that in a second. But the first thing that involves Lawan Watts is, if you noticed early in the game and at different times, Lawan Watts would bring the ball up or initiate the offense via the pick and roll. And this was solely, and you have to have a player that can handle it, and that is a forward that is got the skill set of Lawan Watts to require an opposing big to guard him. Okay, so what Texas Tech was doing is it's always been Christian and JT with the pick and roll, right? In a lot of cases, Jalen Petty will kind of come off and get the switch and this and that. But in this game, it was a lot of Lawan Watts at the top of the key initiating the pick and roll. Well, who's guarding JT? It's Joseph Tugler, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Well, what Chris Sinak, their 5-star freshman, struggles with, and even Kelvin Sampson said after the game, he's like, Chris just has a hard time guarding as a true freshman. Well, who's guarding Lawan Watts? Well, that is, Chris Sinak. So when you initiate the pick and roll, you get the switch. Now Chris Sinak is having to guard JT Toppin. Can't do it. And so then you start seeing some foul trouble. And then they start, because I think that was really the biggest part of the game in the first half was Tugler and Sinak both had 2 personal fouls. Tugler never came back in after he got around the 11-minute mark. Sinak did come back in, but you kept kind of consistently picking on him and trying to get him involved in the pick and roll, because I think that's a bit of a mismatch. And I think it's interesting because I think Kelvin Sampson even said as much after the game. And so then there was Kingston Flemings this night, and I want to talk about Jalen Petty because Petty watched a lot of the balls go in from Kingston Flemings in a one-on-one situations. And yet Jalen Petty he had 18 and 8 rebounds. 8. He's 6'1". He could jump really high. And he was asked to guard one of the best players in the league, one of the best freshmen in the league, in a one-on-one situation. So Grant and Jeff Linder and their kind of collective thought was, because I'm like, why is there no help? Why don't you switch it? Why? And eventually they did. They put Atwell on him toward the end, and he kind of cooled off. And maybe they should have made that change a bit sooner. But what they were playing the numbers, and this is fascinating to me. Let's make him take and make tough twos. We can't afford to double. We can't, because they felt like the 3-point shot from Flemings was the killer. This is what beat you the first time.
Yep.
Okay, he hits 2 of them. So let's make him take them inside the arc, and then we're not going to leave the guys we're guarding, and so we've got the most currency available to try to rebound. Hence the rebounding battle, which we get. I don't want to bury the lead here.
First, today's episode brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Today's spotlight falls on JT Toppin, 31 and 12, offense, defense, cleaning the glass, the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year. Does it all in a win over number 6 Houston. And it's a performance like that reminds us of what it really takes to raise the bar. Competitive fire, true grit, and dialing in every detail. And Mazda puts that same passion into every model. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
I don't want to bury the lead here. This is the first thing we talked about on, leading up to this game, is on the glass. And you crush these guys on the glass. Shockingly. I mean, Kelvin Sampson's said after the game, our program we made a lot of money and a living on crushing people on the glass, especially the offensive glass. You out-rebound them 44-28, and your offensive rebounds were 21-11. So Kingston Flemings gets his, but it's just not enough because you took away the threes, and anytime he did miss, you rebounded it. And so that's what they were willing to live with. If he makes a tough 2, we're going to salute, but we don't think they can beat us doing that. I will also mention to you that it's worth pointing out Houston's only other loss was against Tennessee. Kingston Flemings went for 25 in that game, and nobody else was even close. So the times when Kingston Flemings just goes crazy from a scoring standpoint, they lose.
Interesting. Considered the same thing you mentioned there, and I think was having this conversation out loud with those near me. Any help? Any help for that? But all right, did not consider that, and I'm still loving. By the way, I mean Petty's the thing you left out there about whatever he does so well. He tries really hard. I think his care factor seems really high. That guy just plays with great effort. In addition to the skill, obviously he's got, but easily a fan favorite. And I'm pretty sure you called that one before we saw a gameplay coming into the season. And maybe Grant called that before anybody, that we were going to love this guy. And you wouldn't have gotten the win without him. And there was, I mean, Chris, when you take, what'd you get up to? About an 11-point lead or so at one point? Kind of like a Jalen Petty run, wasn't it? I don't know if he had like 6 or 8 or something like that in a row. But and then he had a steal, I think, in the midst of that as well. Just, it's like, all right, well, here's Petty's 2-minute burst where he'll go ahead and take the game over for a minute and send you into halftime feeling pretty good. But whether it was him or we talked about Watts, Atwell, both of those guys, double-digit scores for you in Atwell and Petty, Mosley's name enters the fray. So the family picture changing a little bit, and still to change, hopefully with some size added eventually with Bomboye. You've now got a week-ish to gather yourself before you get to Orlando. So these things could be impacted by that. But what you make of the return from Mosley? What do you go 6-6 and kind of an electric injection immediately? I was saying to myself, this dude's going to be gassed pretty quick, I bet. And I'm sure the adrenaline was pumping for him, but not a bad little first round.
Yeah, as I said on the broadcast, I mean, everybody else got to debut, or most everybody, against Lindenwood.
Right.
That wasn't Lindenwood. I mean, the environment, the pressure, the and the fact that all of your teammates have gelled and kind of have had a feel for each other and all the things for 2.5 months now is just an unbelievable place to try to break the seal on a season. And so I talked to Coach McCaslin after the game on the post game about this, and of course I asked about Mosley, and it's pretty clear that on Friday they were at the point where he had gotten 2 practices under his belt, the only 2 practices he's really ever had since he's been here. He's walked through, he's been in individual stuff, but he just hasn't been totally clear to be able to do like full team practice stuff until I guess Thursday. So you put Thursday and Friday under his belt. So after Friday, I think they had a conversation. Okay, what do you want to do? Because and he didn't say this, but basically it's like, do you want to do this, or do you want a red shirt? Like, you try to do right by the kid and what the kid's wishes are, and you obviously there's a team need here and all that, but he's like, no, man, I love these guys. I want to be a part of this. So once everybody was good with it, and he's still got 2 years after this, so he's got. But what he gives you, Callan, is it now gives you length and size on the glass, and defensively. This is a player that can play the 3, the 4, or the 5, and I don't know if he was on a minutes restriction. I thought it was interesting. He just played about a little over 3 minutes change yesterday. He knocks down 2 threes.
Yeah.
The first threes of his college career. Last year at Villanova, he was 0 for 3 from behind the arc.
And he got the shooter's roll on one.
I mean, he's even dropping the like the right in his veins. Like after he dropped one, I was like, okay, I've seen it all. Like A Star Is Born? ? So. But it was his ability to keep possessions alive and create some of those second chance points, because he has the 6 boards, but 3 of those were offensive rebounds. And I thought those were where his impact was felt the most. But you win by 4. His 2 threes were obviously massive as well. But you now look like a monster from a Big 12 team standpoint when you're bringing Tyree Bryan and Josiah Mosley off the bench now. Now there is no let's pick on the very young player or the player playing way out of position. No, there is none of that now. And you're going to get to a point where you hopefully I say that you can start to rest Christian and JT in spurts and not have to play them 40 minutes. But was really, without sounding corny, was really proud of old Joe, as they call him behind the scenes, because that's just a lot to ask, man. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just a lot to, break the seal on a season. I just don't know if anybody, I mean, because there's not much margin for error. You know what you're going against. And like, goodness gracious. And I knew that when that first three dropped in, I'm like, Kelvin Sampson's like, yeah, I mean, that wasn't on the scouting report. Don't know what to expect here. And then he drains another one. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that's when you realize that maybe it's your day. Maybe it's the old Red Raiders day.
Just an incredible basketball game. Each team
Yeah.
led for 18 minutes and change. I mean, it's just as good as it gets as far as back and forth action. And thankfully, the good guys wind up with the most action at the end of the day. And would love to do it all over again. If it's conference tournament, if it's NCAA tournament, if it's just on a random Wednesday, if nobody's doing anything, Tech and Houston want to get back together, I'd run it back for a third time. That's just too much fun. But maybe we will, Chris. Incredible win, incredible crowd, and shout out to everybody who made the trek. I had no doubt. I knew there were some panicans out there that were asking about, what are we going to do? Will we get 500 people in the building? I had no doubt that you would be near the rafters. I don't know what the number's going to be officially, but one of the best environments, not only of the year, but of the McCasland era. Every game that is not a blackout is a wasted opportunity. So think about that when we're clad in white coming up at some point soon. That's just an insane scene whenever it's murdered out from top to bottom. So we should be rolling with that every time. We'll throw that out there. But Chris, you and I got to see it from different angles, and I'm not down on the court like you are there on the sideline where all the energy is focused, and it's incredibly loud where I can't imagine what that was like from your seat where you're there in the center of it. How would you compare it to some you've seen in, say, the McCasland era or a modern era of Tech basketball?
Yeah, that was a top five one for sure. Like when Atwell hits those two threes around the 5 minute mark, because you hadn't made a three in the second half, and you're hanging,
Yeah.
and you can't quite, the crowd was kind of like, you could feel there was this nervous energy. And when he hit those two threes, I mean, the place just absolutely erupted, man. And but the and like when you got up 11 in the first half, it's as loud as I've heard it. I mean, that
Yeah.
building is special. I mean, I think nationally it's starting to get a reputation now that you're starting to be consistent with some of these, and now you've put a run together where this is now 6 or 7 or 8 years in a row here where you've been a problem nationally and in your conference and all these things. And it's got starting to build up a bit of a reputation, which I appreciate, because I think the Jalen Petties of the world and the Donovan Atwells of the world play up to that reputation, because those are the parts, Christian and JT are going to play well, but those are the parts that have to come along for you to win a game like that. And they elevate their play because of the energy in the building, in my opinion. And I don't know. We are very fortunate here to have venues like Jones AT&T and United Supermarkets Arena and everything, because it is, and your fan base is just special. And it's not an entitled fan base. It can be a rude fan base at times. It could be a snarky fan base at times, but it's a hungry fan base, and it's an energetic fan base, and it's a fan base that wants more, and never satisfied kind of thing. Hence the reason for the energy. But no, it was big time. Yes.
Our apologies to those who are new to this experience in dealing with the Red Raiders. It's really not our fault. We were born with an Aggie foot on our neck and a Longhorn finger in our eye, so it makes you a
Yeah.
little prickly every once in a while over the years, but hungry to say the least. And man, shout out to everybody who made that one, and looking forward to the next one. Just absolutely incredible, and maybe sans blizzard next time around.
And you know what the next one is? I
Big
mean,
Monday.
yes, the old Billy Self and the Jayhawks coming to town. And we'll see if he plays or not, but another talented freshman, and maybe the best freshman, again, if he plays. So
Yep.
this is quite, I don't remember three home games like that in a row. BYU, Houston, and then Kansas. That's the fun part about the league that you're in when it comes to basketball, because you get these opportunities. But yeah, that's a week from today. As a matter of fact, you've got a trip to Orlando before that. But man, you're rolling. Your Ken Palm ranking is up. Your net ranking is up. It looks pretty good, and now you get to take the foot off the gas for a few days. Which, yeah, you're playing really well. But man, I do think that this is some needed time just to rest these guys, man, and to incorporate Josiah Mosley back in. But we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show.
Yeah, and simmering on a win, always better than the alternative. So take advantage of that. We'll be here with you throughout the week to get ready for the next one, and still plenty to keep pace with regarding roster building. Red Raider football, anyone? We'll return to that conversation soon this week. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Chris, before we wrap it up, got to send a special guns up and a shout out to our guy Benson Sparrow. His old man Mark said he and Benson are taking in the podcast daily. Benson is a senior in high school, soon to take on the world. Benson, give them hell. Remember, when you get to college, there's nothing wrong with 5 years on that campus, regardless of what anybody may tell you. And thank you to Mark Benson and all the other outlaws out there taking it in every single day. Met plenty more at the USA and always enjoyed doing so. I know it's the same for you.
Yeah, you even saw my better half and my soon-to-be Red Raider senior in high school.
That's right. That may have been the only two I met that didn't tell me they were everydayers. What is up with that?
I think my wife is. I think my kids. He's too
better
busy doing.
sense.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, although he does see all our stuff on some of the other social media platforms. He's like, "Hey, my buddy sent me this something you said." I'm like, "Yeah, sorry if I'm embarrassing you, but yeah."
Wherever you are, however you're dialing us up, thank you so much for being out there. The everydayers for always riding along, and of course, the Matador Mob enjoyed exchanging frenzied and almost eventually nonsensical texts with so many of you as that game was winding down. I don't even know that an actual conversation is just being had. If you're just texting back exclamations, it's still fun though. So thank you for being out there, and check out our show notes for a free 14-day trial. You can find that link there, your direct line to Chris and myself, with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.